Good evening and welcome to the Press Box. My name is Melissa Ponzio, and for the next 30 minutes I'll be your host. With me is Jay and special guest Jeff. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Ty's on vacation, but we are still live, so you can give us a call here at 873-6713. I know all of you will miss Ty, but he will be back next week. And let's start things off with the NBA Finals and that magical shot by Paxton.
The Bulls didn't even take Michael Jordan to make this shot, although
Sure
he
didn't.
scored all the points in the fourth quarter except the final shot. John Paxson's done it twice now. He beat, was it Portland a year ago with a big shot. Now he did it against Phoenix. And it's great series, actually. All the games really, game one, the Bulls won pretty easily. But the rest of the game, none of the games were easy, but that was the biggest point spread. The rest of the games, very good games. And Charles Barkley came out and said that he doesn't know, he doesn't want to say that the Suns are better than the Bulls, but they're as good. And I think he has a point, but hey, when it came down to it, the Bulls won it.
Yeah. There was an interesting thing happening this past week. When the Bulls were way ahead in the series, the Suns just kept saying, I think the best team's going to win. We're just going to play the next game. And they were really laid back, low-key about it. And then when they won that Game 5 and brought the series back to Phoenix, they started saying, we're a team of destiny. We're going to win this thing. It was so weird because they just changed their whole outlook on the series. And then the Bulls, they got fired up and just outright won that series in that last game. It took a last-second shot, but even if they don't make that shot, I think they go inside to Jordan, put it in overtime, and win it anyway. And just like our main man here, Julius, Dr. J, said, the Bulls will kill them. And they did. They won 4-2. And Barkley's right in a way. Each game was close, but the Bulls were, I think, just more ready for this finals. The Suns probably got a good experience out of it, but the Bulls, they showed that they were a different team in the postseason than they were in the regular season.
And I think they showed a lot of character, too, winning 3 games in Phoenix. Of course, Phoenix won 2 games in Chicago, which, you always hear about Chicago Stadium being the madhouse in Madison, and yet Phoenix won 2 out of 3 there. Of course, one of them was a triple overtime thing. But it was interesting, and it's been a trend the last couple years. The Bulls have had no trouble on the road winning, and they did it again this year. And I think that's interesting because you always hear about the home court advantage for free throws and stuff like that. And even if it was the case, Chicago and Phoenix were both overcome that and win on the road.
Well, that's always a good barometer. When the NBA playoffs are starting up, you can look at how the teams in the playoffs fared on the road. And the teams that have a winning road record always do well in the playoffs. Teams always get in, they play 40 and 20 at home and then 20 and 40 on the road. Well, those teams don't do they don't do very well in the playoffs. But like you said, the Bulls have a phenomenal road record. I think they're 9-1 in their three-peat on the road. That's incredible in playoff games.
Okay, well, we are live, so if any of our viewers want to call in, the number here is 873-6713. With the Bulls winning this, do you think that they go down as one of the greatest teams in history?
Well, they're one of 3 teams to win 3 consecutive championships, and you have to give them a lot of credit for that. They did it in an era of a lot of teams are even. If you want to go back and look at the Celtic teams that won 8 or 9 in a row, you had Russell and you had guys that Russell was just the class of the league at that time. Of course, Chamberlain was coming along too at that time, but they were just such a good team, and I think they were far and above the best team in the league. The Bulls have come along, and a couple years ago, people were saying Michael's a great player, but he's never won the big one. Well, now he's won 3 in a row. Magic Johnson was crying throughout the playoffs about that his Lakers were going to beat the Bulls, and Isaiah Thomas was saying that he thought that his Pistons could have beat the Bulls. But at the same time, you got to give the Bulls a lot of credit, and I think they're definitely one of the. I think you can give them a place in history as being one of the top teams.
Sure, just by their three-peat. But like I said on the show last week, they're not going to be known as a good team. They're going to be known as the Michael Jordan team that won 3 in a row. And 10 years from now, if you ask an average fan who's on that team, they may go Jordan and some guy that started with a P.
Yeah.
and that'll be it.
Right. Well, we have a phone call. Hi, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
What do you think of Barkley hinting at retirement? He's in the prime of his career, just finished runner-up. What do you think about this?
Well, I think Charles Barkley's too good a player to retire, and for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. 1, he hasn't won the championship yet, and 2, money. Since Ty isn't here, I'll bring that point up. It's always Ty's favorite. But, there's too much money to be made out there. Like you said, he's in the prime of his career. There's no real reason for him to retire. There's been talk about Michael Jordan talking about retirement, and I don't see either one of those guys leaving anytime soon. There's just too much money to be made. I mean, you can say what you want about, look at all the money he just makes in endorsements. I mean, look at all the Barkley commercials, all the Jordan commercials. When these guys, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Do you think Jordan could maybe start a PGA career?
He might be ready in time for his seniors. I don't know about the PGA, but the thing is, golf's a sideline and a somewhat expensive sideline for Michael Jordan, but
not to mention gambling.
I think when he leaves basketball, he'll work for a casino in Atlantic City or something. I doubt he'll be on the PGA Tour. But I don't see Barkley retiring anyway. Like you said, he's in the prime of his career. He needs to make more money. But there's always a feeling of disappointment and frustration when you get to the finals and you lose. And he's probably just feeling some disappointing thoughts or whatever. Barkley, he says a lot of things. I like him.
Yes, he does. He says a whole lot of things.
I like him, but I don't see him retiring.
Thank you for your call. It's interesting when you brought up endorsements. I don't know if you stuck around for the commercials after the game, but instead of seeing the, what are you going to do now that you won the finals, go to Disneyland, Michael said, I want a Big Mac. And so you can only imagine how many millions of dollars that he got for just saying that. But let's get back to the finals. And how do you think this experience will help the Suns for the future?
Well, you would think it would help them a lot. Of course, then people last year saying, well, how do you think this is helping Portland? And Portland didn't make it back. I think the Suns have a good chance of going back again next year, though.
Yeah, I think, Portland sort of went downhill. They didn't make any changes to their team that helped them. They stayed the same. Phoenix got better. Phoenix sort of passed them. Actually, Seattle got better, too, and passed them. And that's one thing in the offseason I think you're going to look for. Phoenix will probably add one player, key player, maybe a bench player, and try to improve their team. And I'd like to see what the Bulls are going to do because they've sort of stood pat, other than rearranging the playing time of Paxson and B.J. Armstrong.
Right.
But they've pretty much held their roster the same. And in the division that they're playing in next year, I don't know whether they'll be able to stand pat like that and just waltz through the playoffs again.
Well, Horace Grant of course, he made a great play to help win the game when he blocked Kevin Johnson's last-second shot. But point-wise, he had 2 points in the last two games. He did have some rebounds. He got in a lot of foul trouble. I think the Bulls are definitely could use another big man up front, especially considering Bill Cartwright's age and stuff. So you might see the Bulls make a move in that area.
Yeah, I think they're going to sign that guy from. It's not
Europe?
Yugoslavia anymore.
He's from Europe.
Yeah, I guess if this was a geography show, we'd know where he's from. But yeah, he's a European player, center. He can play anywhere, they said, but I think they're going to move him in there at the center.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't be a show without Ty, and I hear he's on the line. Hi, Ty.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
All right.
Nice to hear from you.
Jay, do you think that was the biggest shot Paxton will ever make in his lifetime?
No, I think he's going to make one next year for the four-peat.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know, Jeff, that February 6th, you and I are going to have to go to the Omni that night. I just got a word from Durham that Georgia's going to be playing Notre Dame in basketball that night at the Omni, and it's going to be sponsored by Nike during the Super Show. So we got to make plans for that, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all take
Okay,
care.
I wouldn't mind going either, Ty.
Wait, Ty, were you upset about you picked the Suns? How do you feel about their performance in the finals?
Well, what it came down to was that Phoenix couldn't play the defense that they needed to stop Chicago. They double-teamed Jordan like they wanted to, but they just didn't have the defensive personnel who were good enough to stop them. Paul Westphal did a decent job coaching those guys, but Kevin Johnson and Dan Marley and people like that just weren't enough to stop Michael Jordan, and the best team won.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Okay.
Take it easy.
Bye. What about the factor of the all-new coaches in the division?
Yeah, this is a strange phenomenon, don't you think? In the Bulls division, how everyone's changed their coach. Detroit now has Chaney, right? Indiana went to Larry Brown. Cleveland went to Mike Fratello. Yeah,
The Hawks went to Lenny Wilkens.
Yeah, so all those teams will be changing. So that's why I brought up the Bulls might be able to stand pat because those teams will be changing personnels and getting used to the new systems, and they may not be on par to win the division right away like that.
Well, let's look at Cleveland a few years ago, Atlanta a few years ago. You had Mike Fratello, who's definitely the tough guy kind of coach. He yells at the players. He gets on them. You know, he doesn't put up with stuff. And all of a sudden the Hawks say, well, let's try Bob Weiss. He's a nice guy. He's a player's coach. And they went right down the tubes. They didn't go down tubes, but they leveled off at a 500-level team. So it's going to be interesting to see if Mike Fratello can take all that. There's a lot of talent in Cleveland, and they've done very well. They just couldn't beat the Bulls. I mean, that goes along with everybody else in the division. Lenny Wilkins coming to the Hawks, he's going to have to make a lot of changes as an aging team. I mean, their two best players are in their 30s now, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And I think Wilkins is going to be a good type of coach to bring along Mookie Blaylock and Stacey Augmon. I think he can take these two guys and help beef up the Hawks. He's going to need a couple more players to do it, but it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think the Hawks will definitely be on like a 3 or 5 year plan. I don't think they're going to try to win right away with, but I think Fratello will. I think that the problem with Cleveland has been their toughness, and if he can bring that toughness, that Eastern Conference like bad boy kind of attitude to that Cleveland team, then they'll be the team to beat. I really think that they had better personnel through the course of the year. But then when they get in a key game, they just wimp out, start whining, oh, they had Jordan, we couldn't beat him. It's like, well, you can try. I mean, the Suns didn't go, oh, they got Jordan, we can't beat him. They tried, you know. They gave him a good series. Yeah, they gave him a good series. Well, a guy like Barkley is what you need to say, hey, he's no better than I am. Watch this, you know. That Cleveland needs a player to step forward like that. And I think their team leader is kind of like Mark Price, and he can't do that because he can't go one-on-one with anybody and beat him. So it'll be I think it's going to be the most interesting division, and this year they had 5 teams make the playoffs in that division, and they may have 6 or 7 next year because the Hornets are still going to be good, and I think that Orlando. What division are they in? Are they in?
Orlando's the Hornets are in the East.
Oh, okay, Atlantic. Yeah. Well, they're again. It depends on Larry Brown and the Indiana Pacers. He could play 5-6 games and go, oh, these players aren't right. I need to either move on or change your personnel.
I'm going to go to a Division III school now or something.
Yeah, you never know what he's going to do.
Getting back to the Hawks, has there been any speculation about who they may take in the draft?
Well, the Hawks' problem is they're drafting 13th, I believe, in the first round, and you're looking at probably the 7 top players everybody's talking about. And so what the Hawks are going to have to do, and there's been a lot of talk about Babcock and Casson have a lot of work in front of them. They're going to have to weed out a lot of players. Of course, Wilkins is going to have a lot to say about that too, I imagine. I don't know. What would you think the Hawks?
Well,
Hawks
if they
need,
stay true to form, they're going to draft a number 2 guard that can't shoot outside. He can dunk the ball and he can't handle the ball. And then they'll go, oh, what did we do? We should have got a shooting guard.
I mean, if you look at the Hawks right now, they've got Dominique is a good small forward. You got Willis is a good power forward, and you got Mookie Blaylock who's a good point guard. Stacey Augmon kind of is a shadowy where they're going to play him either. They can either play him at small forward a little or they can play him at the off guard, but he's not really a good enough jump shooter to play at the off guard. So you're looking at either a big man, and there's not.
Oh, they got Concact.
Like I said, you're looking at a big man, or you're looking at, like Jay said, a number 2 guy who can shoot and hopefully actually hit some of his shots. Travis Mays is a guy who was hurt a lot of the year, and they had a lot of hopes for. Maybe get a full healthy year out of him, he could help out too. So
I really think they're going to move up, because of what you said about they may break that team up. Well, now's the time to do it. You can start making trades, move up, pick younger players, or get somebody else's backup player, whatever. I think that you're going to see them move. If they don't, they'll lock in on a player, and like Jeff said, there's only 7 really good quality picks, and if they want the 5th or 6th or 7th guy, they'll trade one of their veteran players because they know there's going to be a house cleaning anyway. So move them off, get some younger people in here. Like Wilkins said, take a step back and see what you got, and then go 2 steps ahead the following year.
All right, is there another like Shaquille O'Neal prospect out there?
Well, Chris Webber is probably the biggest impact player in the draft. He's definitely an inside player. He's not really a jump shooter. He's going to be a good defensive player, and he's going to be good around the rim. Probably a good post-up player in the NBA.
I think that he'll be really good in the NBA because they call countless timeouts at the end of the game, and he'll be able to do that over and over again.
Okay, quick closing comments on basketball.
Well, the Bulls won it again.
Yeah.
There was all these 3-peat teams up for it this year. Duke didn't come through. Help me out. There's a couple more. But anyway, well, Duke didn't, but the Bulls did, and the Penguins didn't come through. That was another one.
All right.
but the Bulls did.
But can we look for the Bulls again in the finals next
Yeah,
year?
I think so.
They're
I
definitely
think,
going to be there.
Yeah, I think
They're
that
going to be in the Final Four.
if they
nothing else.
improve their team, if they don't ship people off just because of salary or whatever, they improve their team.
And stay away from injury.
Yeah, stay away from injury. They'll be right there. I think they prove, though, that they can coast through the regular season and then just step it up in the
Right.
playoffs and beat anybody they want.
Okay, well, I'd like to remind our audience that we are live. If you'd like to call in, the number here is 873-6713, and let's move things on to baseball and all-star selections.
Well, all-star selections.
Yeah, there's only one Brave right now that's in, I think Justice is third in the outfield. And we announced this 3 weeks ago. Everyone needs to pack these ballot boxes. Blauser's having an all-star year, and he's like sixth in the balloting, okay? That's just, in years past, it would be okay because the Braves don't draw. Well, the Braves are going to draw 4 million fans this year. So why aren't those fans voting for Jeff Blauser? Is it because of the names like Ozzie Smith and all? I don't know. But if it's going to be a popularity contest, we need for the Atlanta fans to show who they're behind.
And the luxury we have is Bobby Cox is going to be the manager, so you can pretty much bet that Tom Glavine and Steve Avery will go. Mike Stanton might go. Ron Gant's coming on with a strong year, but nothing against Ron Gant's year, but I remember a year ago, as soon as he heard he was elected to the All-Star team is when he dropped off the shelf. So
Yeah. I
I wouldn't mind if Ron didn't make it this year for that simple fact. But, yeah, you're going to see at least 4 Braves. I think Blauser will probably make it as a bench player. If he's, I don't think he'll get picked ahead of Ozzie Smith, but he'll probably make it as a bench player.
He's moved up the ladder to third place now. So
they're-
So they're
and
listening to you. They're
Okay.
listening to you.
Also, Van Slyke broke his collarbone, and he
Right.
is not ahead. I think Barry Bonds is leading the outfield, then Van Slyke, and then Justice. So the 4th vote getter for the outfield will probably go to the All-Star game. Although I wouldn't put it past Van Slyke to say I can play a couple of innings because that'll be about when he's coming back, and he may want to, go to and participate in the festivities since he's one of the leading vote getters. An interesting race in the All-Star balloting as a catcher for the National League. Dalton and Piazza are
that's a
they're
tough
both having great years, and they're like neck and neck. And I don't know, who do you like in that?
I like Dalton, although Piazza can hit the heck out of baseball. He's a rookie, and he's good defensively. Dalton, I think, over 2 years. See, the thing about All-Stars, generally, you see on the field, you see 2 different players. You see either the guy who's there every year, like a Ryan Sandberg or an Ozzie Smith, regardless of the type of year they're having. And the other thing you see is the guys who had great years in '92. I mean, not a lot of people keep up with stats, even though all you have to do is turn on Baseball Tonight every night, and they'll give you every stat you want to know.
Or you could turn on our show and Ty would give you
Or
the
if
stats,
Ty's
too.
here, but you can't do that this week.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
He has
there's-
ears from everywhere.
But there's, that's generally the way people are voted on the. I mean, year after year, like Darryl Strawberry a couple times got picked on there, and he's hitting 220 at the All-Star break. But, he had a great year a few years ago, and people remember that. Or another thing is players in major market cities, New York or Philadelphia.
Yeah.
People. Atlanta right now has to be considered a major market just for the attendance they're getting. So, like you said, there's an excellent chance for us to get a lot of Braves on the team.
What about Terry Pendleton? Do you think he deserves to go?
No, he's not the best third baseman in the league right now. So I wouldn't. I mean, like you said, he's a popular player. He is a team leader. But boy, he struggled in the front. I mean, he's getting it back together. But he would have had to come out of the block real quick and have that 300 average. But I think Terry's just having an average year, and I forgot who's leading.
Matt Williams is
Yeah.
definitely a guy you got to go with.
Yeah,
He's
the
leading
Giants' third baseman, Matt Williams.
He's leading the National League in home runs, and he's helped that team to get to first place along with Barry Bonds, so you have to go with him.
However, I think now if you look at the second baseman in the National League, Sandberg's obviously leading the ballot race, but he didn't start playing until like May 3rd or something like that.
Right.
So, and Lemke's having a solid year. There's another player that the Atlanta fans should stuff the ballot box with. Like, he's only hitting like 270, but he has like 6 homers, and he's played every game, and he's fairly flawless in the field. And I think that he deserves some consideration, though he's not a big name like Sandberg or Ozzie Smith or something like that.
Well, like you said, it's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why at first base in the National League is really really tight. You got Kruk, who's having a great year, and Jeffries, who's having an equally great year. But then Mark Grace, who's always thought of as your all-star first baseman from Chicago.
And Will Clark.
Yeah, and then Will Clark, who has had a bad first couple months, but he's getting it together. So you got all those people that kind of deserve the all-star nod, and I don't know what Cox is going to do there because only one guy's going to win, and then you have three guys that deserve to go to the game, and you can only pick one, you know? So maybe if you just pick Cabrera, it would solve the problem.
Well, I think the bottom line of the All-Star game, is you have to remember it's a fans' game. I mean, the fans vote for
Who they want to see.
Exactly. I mean, you know, Bowser might be hitting 320 and Ozzie Smith hitting 250, but if they want to see Ozzie Smith play that game, then that's the fans' choice, and you know, it's for the fans. It's not necessarily statistical correct, but you know, if that's who they want to see, I mean, it's their game.
Do you think that that's the way the selection should go? Do you think the fans should decide?
Well, if you take a family of four to the Braves game and spend over $100, I think you could pick who you want to see in the All-Star game.
I wish I was in your family.
It's a good thing that you mentioned about the fan support. Do you think that the teams that are having a better year, who attract more fans, do you think that'll factor into who gets in the All-Star game?
Well, sure, just for the simple fact of attendance. It's
Right.
like we're saying again. And again, you could have 45,000 people at a game and half of them don't vote or only a third of them vote. Then what's the difference of only having 10,000 in Wrigley and they
Right.
all vote because they will, believe me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how Sandberg makes it every year. You know, for years and years, New York Yankees made it, you know, back in the 70s and 80s when they had decent teams. I mean, Reggie Jackson would make it every year, and these guys make it. They'd hit 240, but they'd make it because all these people went to the games. And sure, I mean, as far as your two big things are your big cities and your teams that are having good years, they're going to have more attendance, so naturally you're going to probably see a few more of their players on the team.
American League.
That's hard to say. We don't see enough of them. We're obviously familiar with the Twins and the Jays.
Yeah.
But the average fan going to the Braves game probably doesn't know, and then it becomes even more of a whose name do you
Right.
recognize sort of thing. Although there are several players in the American League like Olerud who definitely, he may be leading the vote getting anyway because Toronto's going to draw an ungodly number of people to their games this year. Didn't they pass 4 million last year? And now I think they've sold out every game. So. And those fans vote, you know, like he's saying, that's a good point Jeff made. If you go to a baseball stadium where it's the typical baseball fan, they all vote, like Yankee Stadium, Wrigley Field, like that. Whereas the Braves, you know, it's like a happening. It's a thing to do. It's somewhere to go on a date, you know. It still hasn't.
It's the end thing.
Yeah, it's more of a popular thing to do rather than we're into baseball. We're the long-suffering Braves fans. We're, you know. It's not like that. When you go down there, and like you said, you can see the ushers pass out ballots, and you know, a couple people in each row punch out all the Braves, hand them back, and the rest of the people just throw them down in their seat.
Or take them home. Oh, look, I'm going to take the song with me.
Yeah.
Memorabilia.
There you go.
Let's concentrate on the pennant race now.
Well, I think your pennant races are in the American League. Getting back to that, National League right now, the Phillies and Giants are so strong that nobody's really knocking on the door. They got out of the both teams got out of the gate strong. Braves are playing great baseball right now. I mean, they're 3-1 on the road in Montreal and Philadelphia, the two top teams in the East, and they haven't gained any ground on the Giants because the Giants won't lose. And I think what you're seeing this year, and hopefully it'll turn around, but I think you're basically seeing this year what fans in Cincinnati and Los Angeles saw in the last 2 years, that no matter how hot they got, the Braves were hotter. And this year, we're starting to see a little bit of that. The Giants will not lose. Now, it's still June. There's still time. We're still hanging around. We're not out of it by any means. But, you know, everybody keeps saying the Giant pitching staff's going to break down. The Giant pitching staff's going to break down. Well, the Giant pitching staff gives up 4 and their offense scores 8. It doesn't matter. And that's what they're really riding on their offense, I think, more than their pitching. Right
Although they have started to bring instead of the staff getting overworked and going downhill, like Wilson's starting to pitch good now, where they only had Swift and Burkett. Now they have 3 pitchers that are really on their game. So I don't know. I think the Braves, like you said, will hang around. It's hard. I've sat right here and said the Braves, I think they're going to win 100 games, and I still think the Braves probably will win close to 100 games. But if the Giants win 101, there's nothing you can do. And you can't go back over a season where you say you finish 160 and say, oh, we could have done this, we could have done that, because if the Braves finish, you know, with winning 100 games, then they'll have had a successful season, and it'll just be because the Giants won 1 more game or 2 more games or whatever. You can't look back at that season and say, we were unsuccessful because we could have done this, we could have done that, because you really got to hand it to a team like the Giants or the Phils that lead wire to wire. Although I still think that won't happen.
Well, do you think it's still just a two-team race, Braves and Giants?
Oh yeah.
I would say so. The Astros are maybe a year away yet. The Dodgers.
They can't even beat the Rockies.
Well, the Dodgers, I think, that's a team on the rise. I mean, guys like Piazza and Karras, I think, are going to start replacing your Strawberries and Davises over the next couple of years, and they're going to be a team to be reckoned with.
But not this year.
Not this year.
Just like Cincinnati, I think Dave Johnson's going to make them a good ball team, but not this year. They've had too slow of a start, not enough for him to work with right now. He'll make some changes in off-season, and Cincinnati will be there, I think. But the best pennant race is in the AL West, where you have 3 teams tied for first, and the 4th team is only a game behind. Now, that looks like it's got playoff written all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, as you say, it's hard to pick a team out of Chicago, Kansas City, or Texas, or California. I mean, any of these teams could easily win the West. In the East, you've got a good race, too. You got a lot of people thought Toronto, who had given up a lot of the people they won the World Series with last year, but they're still right there. Detroit's having a good year, and the Yankees are hanging around, so you got a good 3-team race in the East as well.
It's really similar to Toronto-Detroit is similar to the Giants and the Braves, where Detroit's really relying on their offense. They just hit home run after home run. They've scored like 800 runs or something like that. They're way ahead in the run scored category. And Toronto's just a good sound team. They're like the Braves. They're built around pitching and good defense, and they have a couple of sluggers in the lineup. But I think Toronto will be there. Like you said, they gave away some players to help them win the World Series, but you have to do that. You have to improve every year. That's why the Braves got Maddox.
Okay. Well, let's focus now on Wimbledon really quick before we wrap up. Any comments?
Well, I like Becker as far as the men's concerned. He's won quite a few Wimbledon titles. I can't believe Yvonne Lendl is still attempting to win another Wimbledon at 33. But
Well, he's the sentimental favorite now.
Right.
Yeah.
He used to be the number 1 ranked player.
Well, Agassi won it a year ago, but he had wrist problems. He did win his first-round match, but I don't see Andre going too far. Sampras is kind of banged up, so those are probably your two top.
It's a wide open. This is the first year that it's really been wide open. There are no favorites. It's going to be interesting to watch because it's a major. People are intense, and there's no clear-cut favorite.
Right, okay, and there hasn't been any major upsets yet, and I'd like to thank Jeff. Thank you so much for coming in and sitting in for Ty.
Sure.
And Jay, see you next week.
Right.
And thank you very much for tuning in. See us next Tuesday at 8:30.